That way, it's not being used as an infinite escape or distraction, but as a relaxing, time-defined, peaceful, restful activity that you decided and made time for. It's not easy at first, and to be honest, in recent years, I cheat. I cheat by
On Stories of Self, we go on journeys into the lives of ourselves and others. We see how stories connect, how they diverge, and how we can create our worlds and solve our problems. This is the real-life remix of storytelling, which is so often stranger than fiction. So come and sit around the fire, chill by the ocean, or get a coffee with me, as I delve into the stories of self that make, break, and remake us. Some stories are dramatic, some are serene, some will magically mirror you, and some will be delightfully different. I'm your host, Katie Reeve Arnold, and this is Stories of Self.
Who is stealing your time? I was thinking this week a little about a big topic in today's working world: time theft. I work for myself, so for me it's pretty clear. If I engage in time theft, the only time I'm actually stealing is my own. But the same is actually true of all of us. It just might not look like it at first glance. So many people pull go-slows or extra coffee time or get done only what they need to rather than what they could in paid-by-the-hour 9-to-5 or shift-style jobs. I'm talking reasonably could, not nose to the grindstone, sweat and blood kind of work. And our society has created this structure where even if people get their work done, they can't leave until a set time, and they can't change what they're doing without someone else's input or say-so. So no wonder they feel disillusioned. And in that disillusionment, they skim a little off their efforts in order to somehow claim a little of their time back. Except it doesn't work like that. It isn't just time theft from the company. It's time theft from themselves, because the only person whose time is getting leaked out on doing less is theirs. So how can we solve this? Maybe giving people a leg up to leave early when possible if all their work is done and done well. Or, where this isn't possible, maybe opening up some chosen self-development opportunities that they can engage in during the time they have created once everything is done, yet a person still has to remain at the desk. Maybe some kind of rewards accrued for success points reached, which lead to benefits such as extra time off in future, or qualification opportunities, or cash bonus boosts, or company shares, services, etc., whatever works in each specific system or workplace. In a role where more work can always be found, people could be given recognition for going above and beyond the basic, and reward points enabling them to reap the reward of their dedication to how their time is spent. Everyone loses from time theft. The companies that pay for it, and the individuals whose time it ultimately is that is blown into the wind. Surely it's about time we found a way to turn it into a winning game, not a losing one. After all, this is a world of our creation, so if we want it, all we need to do is create it. This self-imposed time theft can go beyond working environments, though. We classically can find ourselves elongating our evenings and delaying our bedtimes as a kind of revenge on the day for having taken so much of our time to spend in a way that isn't of our choosing. But this just leaves us tired and struggling the next day, and it isn't really relaxing or enjoyable to not be fully enjoying our evening activities because we know really we'll be tired tomorrow and need to be in bed. Again, the person we hurt most with our manipulation of time is ourselves. Another way we steal our own time is via actively or passively allowing it to be vacuumed away by things we don't really care about, things that don't really bring us joy beyond a point, or things we actually just wanted a little of but got sucked in and lost days to it instead. I know I've been there where TV or Netflix has stolen entire evenings or days of my life, when actually I only thought I was sitting down for one episode. This is the issue with bingeable series and with on-demand access. In the past, things were only available for the times they were shown, or via tape or disc in a set location where everything was set up. But now we have 24/7 access to almost anything all at once. Anything, anytime, anywhere. I'm not saying to go back to the old days. I'm not saying the old days were better. I'm just trying to say that it changed so fast that we're all struggling now with the willpower it takes to say, I'm only watching one episode, and to actually mean it and stick to it. There's a time and a place for binge watching a series. If you are ill, then it can be a great distraction and peaceful time while you heal. But with the average person in the West watching 4 to 5 hours of TV or on-demand streaming per day, this has gone beyond that for the majority of people. And spending all this time this way has impact on the time we think we have available to do what we really want and value with our lives. Our lives are ticking away, largely unlived, while we watch screens. It's all about balance. It's not about no screen time. It's about balanced screen time with life. Screens are the easy go-to, and streaming and social media companies make more money from advertising the more you stream. So they have a vested interest in keeping your attention. But you have a vested interest in breaking that glazed screen gaze and balancing some non-screen time in your life. What is it that you want to look back on your life and say? As much as I enjoy watching the odd episode of the series Friends, and have seen them all more than once over the years, I don't at all want my eulogy to read, she watched the series of Friends a lot of times. I've got other plans with my life. These old shows we watch over and over can also be fallbacks that provide us with known comfort during times of issue, challenge, or integration. So be compassionate with yourself. It's not about never allowing yourself these escapes or safe feeling distractions. It's about working kindly with your life to make sure the whole thing doesn't turn into a comfortable distraction from what is really important to you. We all need to escape and hide sometimes to restore and replenish ourselves, or just to give ourselves a break. But the statement, a change is as good as a rest, exists for a reason, and not only to keep people working just in a different task. It actually does feel good to engage in something different when you want to do it. And something that you want to do. It may be a bit scary at first, more difficult to get going or step into, and not feel as comfortable as staying on the couch for another episode or two. But what about using those extra couple of episodes as a reward after you get up and do something else? You might even find that you enjoy doing something else so much that you'd rather keep going at it than go back to the TV. We are also modelling our way of living for children. If we are crashing in front of the TV, so will they. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it isn't the only thing they do, as long as there are other activities and it isn't just the default. Maybe try making a house TV schedule. I know it sounds old school, but what if you only turned the TV on when there was something you really wanted to watch and had decided to watch it at a specific time of day or week? What if we got rid of the scrolling time and the looking for something to watch and the just picking something at time? You know, that time where you just pick something because there's nothing really on but you want something. All channel websites and apps and Netflix and all of those ones, they have a My List option. What if you add things to it and schedule them in? That way, it's not being used as an infinite escape or distraction, but as a relaxing, time-defined, peaceful, restful activity that you decided and made time for. It's not easy at first, and to be honest, in recent years, I cheat. I cheat by not having a TV, because it makes it easier to watch less TV when I don't have one. Everything is available to stream, and whether it's via projector or a laptop. Setting it up, though, requires a little bit more effort than just flicking on the TV. You can also set up timing apps for laptops and tablets and phones, which don't allow you on certain sites until it's a certain time of day and you've decided on beforehand which apps you'll be on at what times of the day and for how long. In this way, you can add something to aid your self-control, so you're not just resting on your own self-control. But it can be frightening when these apps start to gauge your time spent on certain screens or sites. I know that when I first put this kind of screen time record app on my phone, I was absolutely horrified by the number of hours I was clocking up on my phone. It was beyond too many. I was an addict. But the absolute first steps to creating change are to notice an issue and get radically honest about it. And the phone screen time app helps me with that. From there, I set my screen time limit and I started to change my habits and pattern. Kindly and compassionately, I was noticing what I was using the phone for, how I felt when I was using it, and how I felt when I didn't allow myself to use it as much. I actually recorded my activity and the duration of that activity and whether I felt more or less energized after it. I only recorded it for a few days, but, spoiler alert, I felt a lot better when I wasn't using the phone so much. I actually genuinely felt better in myself. I felt happier. I had more energy. But even though I felt a lot better, once I stopped focusing on changing my habit, my screen time crept back up again. This is because I was still trying to solve the issue. It was like going on a diet. It took willpower all the time, and lapsing back when that is the case is both understandable and normal. So with compassion for myself, I tried again. But now I realize that in order for things to really change, who I was being needed to change somehow. Who I was around screens and phones needed to change. So how did I do that? I looked at who I wanted to be and at who I was. I wanted to be a person who was so busy enjoying life that my phone was just an accent to my life, just a tool to help me on the go, saving time by answering emails while waiting for a train, able to be open to catching up with friends spontaneously, able to research and book an event easily and quickly. I didn't want to be a person who drained hours into the black mirror in their pocket. Now, relating who I wanted to be to who I was someone who loved catching up with friends, keeping in contact, meeting people old and new in my life. And because I loved to travel, a lot of my friendships and catch-ups involved the phone. But there are different ways to do that. A wise friend of mine said to me once that she was going to stop messaging people so much and instead suggest a call or meetup, because that was what she actually wanted. And that felt more true and more like a true connection that filled the cup of both parties. But I enjoyed messaging people. Or did I? I love a new idea, so I embraced her idea and soon found she was right. Now, it isn't that I send no messages, but my messages now fit into two categories. Either a couple of messages, then moving on to organise a phone conversation or a meetup in person, or a deliberately chosen method to catch up with someone who isn't available for a phone or in-person catch-up, but who I don't want to lose from my life. And in meeting up with more people in person and catching up with more people over call rather than message, I am much happier and I have a lot of my time back that otherwise would have been taken up with the elongated and sometimes confusing process of messaging. After all, we all know we can say something quicker than we can write it. And we can probably all think of a time where a text message has led to confusion when it has been misread, misspelled, or, the bane of my life online, auto-incorrected by a supposed autocorrect. But it might sound wild, but please try it out. Turn that phone off. Or if that sends a shiver up your spine, as it does mine, feeling I might miss emergency calls from family or friends far away, then just leave it in a different room while you engage in an activity, so your brain is not in some way reaching out for it. so that you've carved out some time for yourself that is separate from it. And consider turning your notifications off. This was a game changer for me. It felt weird to start with, but I went from tentatively deciding to turn off notifications on a couple of lesser used messaging apps like Messenger, FaceTime, Slack, Facebook, to, within a week, delightedly rejecting notifications from everything. Absolutely every single app on my phone I reject notifications from. And I deleted over half the apps I had on my phone at that time. Once you get going, it feels amazing and it's easy to do. You can also set certain phones or apps to not ring unless someone calls 3 times in quick succession, and let people know that in order to reach you immediately or between certain hours, this is what they would need to do. It means it is possible to reach you, but a lot of people will think twice unless it really is urgent when they have to call 3 times instead of 1. You can set it so that only one app delivers notifications and tell everyone this is your primary contact method in case of emergency. Or you can turn all notifications off for everything, but allow certain apps to still put calls through and tell people they need to ring if they need you urgently. This doesn't stop you using the apps, but you will need to check them, and you can pick certain time points to do that when it fits in to your life but doesn't take over your day. After all, is the phone a tool that is serving you, or are you serving the phone? Be alert and chosen about how you spend your time and the patterns and habits you set up in relation to how your time is spent. Our time is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most valuable thing any of us has.
We are all telling our stories, and we are all telling ourselves stories about it all. Are you brave enough to walk with me into hearing, considering, and understanding the stories we tell? Join me next time, where we'll be considering more stories and illusions and stepping into creating the freedom we desire. Every moment, we are who we are choosing to be. You choose. Choose you, because your story matters.